So obviously we are licking our wounds this morning from a tough loss. Just kind of backtrack to the opening of the stadium, and I said it after the game. It was everything we hoped for and more. Great turnout in spite of some rain and some lightning, and just could not be prouder of our fans and the attendance and atmosphere. Our players loved it, and it was obviously there's going to be things for everybody to clean up, but it was everything we hoped for. I don't spend a lot of time talking about injuries. We've got a few guys that are bunged up. Going into that game, we knew we were, but give Liberty a lot of credit. It was a close game at half, and we couldn't get first downs and couldn't get stops in the second half. Pretty simple. Guys never quit, kept fighting just like we thought they were. I don't think there's any doubt that Willis is as good or better than advertised. Just like we said, just like we knew, and he tilted the field. But give them credit, and give their coach credit and their coaching staff credit. So, good, bad, and ugly this morning. We got, put that one to bed, and now we're working on winning the championship. So we've got a very good FAU team coming in. I think defensively they got 9 of the starters back that played us in the conference championship 2 years ago. They're very, very well coached. Coach Taggart, the whole staff. Had a huge win last week against FIU. I know they feel like probably that was their coming out. So we got to get back to home and defend these championships that are so hard to come by, and I think our guys know what it takes. And we're going to have some guys step up, and that's what happens when you get guys beat up and bunged up. We knew that was going to be the case with this really tough schedule we had, and every game being as tough as it was. And sometimes you got to have a little luck, but we will, I think, get a couple guys back this week. We hope. But either way, we got to go. We got to go, and I know our guys are going to be ready to do that. Okay, questions?
Obviously, you mentioned a few guys out on defense, Chris, TD, Tyree, Dajon, but you've also gotten CD back in the last couple of weeks. So, how big has that have been just to get him back in the fold? Yeah,
depth, and, depth became a factor in that game, and that's kind of what happened. We lost Miller right before half, which was huge. Key comes in to take his place, and then they caught targeting on him, and so that's what happens when you stay on the field. But getting a guy like CD is key. We get Tyler Taylor back this week. That's been big. He hadn't played all year. So, every person we can get back helps us, and that's when depth really plays a factor when you start playing, game number 6 in a row, game number 7 in a row. I mean, that's where you got to have some luck as far as open dates and things like that. And we got to, we got to fight through some of these things, and we got to have guys step up. But, getting a guy like CD back, obviously that just creates depth in the secondary.
Coach, looking back at some of those targeting calls, have you had a chance to look at them at all? Or?
Yeah, targeting call I totally disagreed with. First thing I asked, can that be overturned? And they said it couldn't be. Just totally disagree with it. Obviously they make their call and they stand by it, but it's just, that's become, I'm on the rules committee, and that's the one thing we've talked so much about is, when there's intent, and there's really, you see a guy lay out on somebody and really ducks his head, I'm all for it. When it's a shoulder with just a slight helmet, it's, I think probably every coach in America has talked about that, but I think it's one of those things where they're scared to pull it back because of how the optics. And I think that's not the right deal. We've sent the right message, which is safety. And I don't know a coach that's not for safety. We had a call in the first half that was 2 guys going head up. Guy just happened to not be looking, but it was a face-up block that called a blindside. So I think we've taken a rule that was made for good, and we've turned it to something bad, really. So that's just my opinion. But I'm just one of those members on the rules committee. We all say the same thing. So. Just totally disagree with it.
Y'all faced FAU 2 years ago in the CUSA title game, but new coaching staff, just basically a really different team. Just what have you seen, just initially from these guys?
Well, defensively, they're the same as far as just really aggressive, well-coached defense, and then offensively, they've probably found who they are last week. They went real high tempo. They've got speed everywhere. Obviously they're in a hotbed of recruiting. Quarterback was the player of the year, was starting in Miami. They've got speed all over the place. They're gigantic up front. So it's there's a reason when they picked, I guess they picked us and maybe somebody else on the West, and they picked them and Marshall on the East. So, I mean, we knew when they added those guys to our side of the schedule, they were giving us, one of the best teams on the other side of the conference, and they looked like it Saturday.
Coach, at halftime of the Liberty game, there was a ton of former players that got to get out and get on the field. I know you didn't get to see it, but maybe you heard about it after. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know just seeing all those guys was pretty cool.
One of the things that since we've been back that I want to do all the way back to 14 was recognize former players. And, I think that's one of those big deals when I said, you didn't play for me, but you did. And it really is family. And so we didn't have a really good place to bring them, and then we got this facility built. Every year we invite them back. This was probably our biggest turnout this year. We had over 150. We created something called the Dragons Club, which is zero cost. If you played football, you're in it. And we got to recognize those guys. And I'm telling you, my phone yesterday was just loaded with texts of appreciation. Some of them stopped me on the field. And those guys should be recognized. They helped build this program. 10 of them were my guys, all the way back from the 14 teams, but so many before. And I said that as we walked down that walk. I mean, tears coming down my face. I feel the same way about the former players, that we now got a place to recognize them. And, there's no doubt the future is so bright for our program and everybody surrounding that stadium. But it was great to recognize those guys, and they should be recognized.
Not counting the end of the season, next season, but since the return, y'all are 9-4 and coming off a loss. Just what does that speak for this team, be able to kind of look at themselves and be able to kind of overcome those losses and really hit back on that next week?
Well, yesterday's a voluntary day. They come in and lift, and that's when I always hear about from the strength staff. Because we don't see them really unless they just happen to stop by up in our office. But just where their mind is. And, these mornings, good, bad, and ugly, is tough. I mean, it's tough to get up on a Monday morning and review that film. But it's so good for everybody to get to move past that. But I think their heads are in the right place. They know we've got another. And I said this, there is not an easy game on our schedule. I mean, it's just the way it is. There's not an easy game. There's not one where you go say, man, we got these 2 or 3 at home that we can count on. And that's what it is. It's a championship game. I know FAU feels the same way. It's a championship game for them. But I think our minds are in the exact right spot. And it's going to be how we practice this week.
Just with the initial week of Protective Stadium kind of over in the rearview mirror, do you feel just be a little bit more routine this week, going into the second game?
Yeah, and you say what affected you. I would have given anything to have had that game with, just not all the implications on the first game. We had guys taking pictures in the locker room before the game. I mean, they got their phones out, and I'm like, guys, I love it. I appreciate it, but this is not the time. We had every single player on the field, which made it really tight, but they needed to be there. They needed to be recognized. We will be in a different mindset this week. And we've seen it. We've been part of it. The glitz and the glamour, now it's nothing but business.
Obviously, just seeing a guy like Malik Willis, how does that prepare y'all going forward, especially against other quarterbacks who may be mobile? Because, he was just, so strong and really fast. He was able to, take corners and angles that, not a lot of quarterbacks can take.
Oh, yeah, Malik, give it to him. Great guy. Great athlete and everything. He was just a bigger guy. We had to wrap up. That was one thing we had to focus on throughout the week. One thing that we had to look at was him just scrambling and making big plays, and that was one thing we did look at.
2 years ago, y'all played FAU in this USA title game. It's kind of a different team now, kind of different coaching staff. What are the differences you've seen from maybe the offense under Lane Kiffin to the offense now under Willie Taggart?
I think there's not gonna be a difference at all. I think both of them good coaches. They came from great staff from where they came from, and I think that the offense gonna be explosive. And we just gotta play defense. That's it. We gotta tackle, eliminate big plays.
Have you seen any of the younger players that kind of had to step in and get on the defensive field this so far, these first few games, that have kind of stepped up and filled the role that, someone going down, someone getting called out for ejection for targeting or something?
I could say Cash, Grayson Cash. He stepped up a big way from playing strong safety behind me. He had to step in and play free safety, and he didn't do none of that the whole week. He had to change his mindset and everything.
I had
No
one.
other questions? We're good.
I had one. Just what has it been like? You've got a lot of teammates that have been out. Just what's kind of been that feeling of kind of backs against the wall. How's that defensive mindset? With the next guy up. How do y'all feel about that?
Just coming off what you just said, next man up. We always had to think of it like that. If one man go down, another man got to get his mind right and come up.
And Bill talked about the kind of targeting thing. How do you feel about that? Because obviously it's a hard thing now. Just because it can be in the moment. Maybe an offensive player just happens to lean over a certain way, and there's nothing that can be done about it. How does that affect you as a defensive player? Especially in practice and then going into the game.
Like how my coach was saying, we just got to learn how to get lower and go through the strike zone. It's from the chest into the knee area, and we can't just lean without helmet.
Jermaine, just what's it been like with you and Debo back there? Just kind of being a compliment to one another, and really pushing forward this offense. This year without just relying on one back, but really two guys.
Yeah, me and Debo, we just work hard every day at practice, and we know that we're one. Like, it don't matter who starts or whoever, we just rotate and do a good job.
On that run that you broke away and got the touchdown, what were you seeing that just allowed you to zigzag across that field?
I seen a lot of green grass, and it was late in the game. We were kind of losing then, and therefore I just wanted to spark and still finish the game how it's supposed to be finished.
Would you say that touchdown was more just about your will than anything else?
No, it was a team effort. It was a team effort.
And just going forward, how does this offense continue to kind of evolve? We've seen the tight ends really step up. Obviously the two running backs, you and Debo, really setting the kind of the tone in that. Just how much more can this offense kind of progress through this this season?
It's really just a team effort. I mean, like, it's not one individual. We need every 11 person on the field, like, doing what they're supposed to do to get the job done.